this publication, knowing what I now know, would I start advertising or promoting? And if the answer is no, imagine you are your own turnaround specialist. Imagine you're an outside consultant who's come in to advise you. And the first thing the consultant does, and he charges you $500 an hour, is says, what should you do more of, less of, start or stop? So be your own consultant and be really harsh on yourself. Say, would I start this up again today knowing what I now know? And then, number 6, who are your most profitable people? Those whose contributions are the most valuable, those who you would hate the most to lose. By the way, in every company, 20% of people contribute 80% of the value. And what I've always done in my businesses over the last 30 years is if I recognize that somebody is really valuable, I pay them more money. I keep paying them more money. I give them commissions. I give them bonuses. I give them salaries. I keep paying them more money because I don't want them to go somewhere else. The cheapest money you pay is to your highest performers because they produce vastly more value than they cost. So remember, here's a rule which we'll talk about later, but it's good people are free. Good people are free. Poor people are very expensive, but good people are free because they contribute vastly more in value than you pay them in dollars. So companies will hire a person, pay them $10.5 million a year, average last year, but they contribute, because of their influence, $1 billion worth of sales and profits. So $10.5 million against $1 billion, it's paying like 1% of what this person is contributing. Paying $100 million to an outstanding executive like Michael Eisner, who takes over Disney when it's at $4 billion and raises the value to $60 billion, and paying him $300 or $400 million in salary, which they did, people say, smartest money you ever paid. Smartest money we ever paid. Went from $4 billion to $60 billion, and we paid him basically pennies on the dollar that he contributed to us. So anyway, so we'll talk about that when we talk about people. So number 7, who are your least profitable people? Those who contribute very little. And then, of course, our big question, what one action are you going to take immediately to increase your profitability? What one action are you going to take immediately as a result of your answers to the above? Please begin. Okay, if I could have your attention, please. This is really hard work, working out profits, prices, percentages, economic denominators, and so on, but it's one of the 7 keys that's been identified in all of business history to becoming a great and profitable company. So it's sort of like work that you have to do. It's like cleaning up the dishes in the kitchen after dinner. This is just work you have to do. It's not work that you love to do. But if you don't know these numbers, the lack of one number or one inaccurate number can kill you. It can kill you. So that takes us to our 2 favorite words. Remember, we talked about clarity and focus. Clarity and focus. You must be clear about these numbers, and then you must focus on these numbers every day. I know the best business people come in, and every day they demand to know the numbers, specific results of the previous day. Sometimes they want to know the results at the end of each day. Some of the best business people I work with calculated all of their sales and profits, gross and net, at the end of each business day, and they had the number ready. And they were set up to generate the numbers, and if you went to them at 3:30 in the afternoon, they've got the numbers to 3:30. The sales, profits, cost, net, gross, everything. And these people were the most profitable. Every one of them became millionaires. And in a business where almost everybody else went broke over time. Why? Because they were so fastidious about their numbers. Now, the third key word in success is concentration. And concentration, what we have discovered is that when you focus and concentrate on a single number or a single thing, on a single number you improve the number, on a single goal you actually activate your superconscious mind. Now, you've heard of the conscious mind, which is what we think with most of the time. The subconscious mind is like a great computer that accepts your commands and operates without thinking. It has no mind of its own. Then there is a third mind called the superconscious mind. This mind has been talked about throughout all of human history, and it contains every answer to every problem. It contains the steps necessary to achieve every goal. And here's the rule. Whatever you can hold in your mind on a continuing basis, you can have. Because the more you think about a goal that you want to achieve, the more the superconscious mind activates. the more energy you have, and the more ideas are generated. The reason people fail is because they think of many things all the time, but they don't think about one thing. And your ability to think about one thing is the key to great success. So let's do an exercise, and this is my favorite of all exercises on goal setting. And by the way, I mentioned in our sales seminar, I am the best-selling author on goals in the world in 22 languages. In fact, what happened after I wrote my book on goals, after teaching it for many years, is the publishers in New York just simply said, no more books on goals. The book has been written. And I've heard this through channels. They say somebody comes, I've got a book on goals. No publisher will publish a book on goals. They said, I'm sorry, it's already been written. Nobody can do better than Brian's book. And say, well, I've got a book on goals. Show me how it's superior to Brian's book. And they just go away. I have friends who teach goal setting. That's their whole life is goal setting. And they read my book and they said, this almost puts me out of business because there's more in this book than they've spent 20 years teaching and writing on goals. My goal is better. My goal book is better. And this is the essence. This is a small exercise, but this exercise is life-changing. I learned it many, many years ago. I applied it to my own life, and it transformed my life. And you apply it to your life, it will transform yours as well. So here it is. We say that focus and concentration on your most important goal releases ideas, energy, and personal power. It's called concentrated mind power. The more you focus on a single goal, the more energy and more creativity you have. And so the goal setting exercise, we say there are 7 components to setting and achieving goals. And I'll explain to you the 7 components, and then I'll take you through an exercise. Number 1, decide exactly what you want. This is the most important first step. 90% or more of people do not really know exactly what they want in each area of life. And here's the great danger. If I say to you, and you're all some of the smartest people in Tanzania, if I say to you, do you have goals? Everybody will say, of course I have goals. I'm an adult. I have goals. I have a car. I have a watch. I have a cell phone. I have goals. Oh, I say, really? Well, that's quite surprising because statistically, most people don't have goals. So, and I've been through this. So what are your goals? Well, I want to be happy. And I want to be rich. And I want to travel. And I want to have a nice home and marriage and children and be popular. Those are my goals. Well, crazy people in insane asylums that are under the care of serious hallucinogenic drugs in straitjackets in padded cells also have those goals. So failures have those goals as well, but they're not goals. What they found in an interesting study, I've talked about my book on how rich people think, how poor people think. Most rich people, 85 or more, have one big burning goal that they work on every single day. Only 3% of poor people have a goal, and they don't work on it very much. But the difference is enormous. Same level of intelligence, education, college, family, background, occupation, experience. But the ones that earn 10, 20, 50, 100 times as much are the ones that have a really big, clear goal. And they know exactly what they want. Now, what do we know about a result? Well, a result is clear, specific, measurable, written down, tangible, under your control, and something that a 6-year-old child can tell you how close you are to achieving. So when people say, I want to be rich and I want to be happy and I want to have a nice family, these are not goals. These are fantasies. These are wishes. These are hopes. These are illusions that crazy people have. I call these cigarette smoke goals. So if you take a cigarette, you go, and you blow it, and it just disappears in the air. It has no power, no force, no visibility. It creates nothing. So be specific and clear. Your goal should be so clear that a 6-year-old child could understand your goal. This is what Einstein said. And tell it to another 6-year-old child. And the other 6-year-old child would not only understand exactly what it is, but could tell you how close you are to achieving the goal. So when people say, I want to be happy and healthy and rich, these are meaningless goals because how can a 6-year-old child determine how close you are? Step number 2 is write it down. Write it down, write it down, write it down. The fact is that all goals are written down. A goal that is not in writing is not a goal, it's a fantasy. And the most amazing thing happens between the head and the hand. When you write down a goal, it's astonishing what starts to happen. You see, everything that you handwrite, not type, but everything that you handwrite, you're actually handwriting into your subconscious computer. And the subconscious computer accepts this as a command and then begins working 24 hours a day to bring this goal into your life. And when I discovered this, I was 24 years old, and within 1 year I was earning 10 times as much as I was when I started. And this exercise is phenomenal. Write it down. Only 3% of adults have written goals, and everyone else works for them. 3% of adults with written goals, according to studies that were done at both Yale and Harvard, earn an average of 10 times as much as people in the same field without written goals, and they accumulate an average of 10 times as much over the course of their career as people without written goals. So written goals are very powerful. Number 3 is make it measurable. Make it measurable. I'm sorry. Number 2, write it down and make it measurable, and put a number next to it. Always put a number. And number 3 is set a deadline, and set sub-deadlines if necessary. Now, there is a goal-setting formula that is based in English on the 3 Ps. The 3 Ps are, first of all, it's personal, which means you always write a goal that starts with the word I. Second of all, it's present tense. So your second word is always an action verb. I earn, I weigh, I achieve, I live in, I accomplish, I sell. It's always as though it were a current fact. You never use the word will, because your subconscious mind can only record a command that is registered in the present tense. And the third thing is that it's positive. You don't say, I will quit smoking. You say, I am a non-smoker. You don't say, I will earn a lot of money, future tense. You say, I earn X number of dollars each year. Now, the third part of the deadline is put a date at the end of each goal. So you say, I weigh X number of kilos by this date. I earn this amount of money each year by December 31st, 2015. I drive this BMW car by August 31, 2016. Whatever it happens to be, is always I achieve, present tense, by this date. This is the exact way that your subconscious mind can accept it as a command and then work on it 24 hours a day. Now, if it's a big goal and you repeat it over and over, your subconscious mind calls in the superconscious and says, look, we've got a big goal here. This person's really serious about it. We'll turn it over to you. And the superconscious then takes it and begins to solve every problem on the way to your goal. It begins to give you ideas and insights. And it is the seat of the law of attraction. So it attracts people and money and resources to help you achieve the goal. It's the most amazing power that you have, and you activate it with a clear written goal. This is why people who have clear written goals, rich people have big goals, and poor people don't. And poor people stay poor. They have the same talents and abilities, but they don't have written goals. So next is make a list. And you make a list of 3 different things. The first is all the problems and obstacles between you and your goal. The question we ask is always, what is holding you back from achieving your goal? And the second question we ask is, why aren't you already at your goal? What's stopping you? What is it in yourself or in your world that's holding you back? And what can you do to remove that? B is, what are the knowledge and skills that you will require? The rule is, to achieve a goal you've never achieved before, you're going to have to learn skills you've never had before. You're going to have to become better at a level that you've never been before. You cannot achieve anything more than you're achieving today at the same level that you are today. In order for you to achieve something bigger, you have to become bigger. Aristotle said the 3 critical factors of goals is be, do, have in that sequence. First of all, if you want to become a wealthy person on the outside, become a wealthy person in terms of knowledge, skill, and attitude on the inside. First, you must be the person that you want to be on the outside. Second of all, is you must then do the things consistent with achieving the goal. And then third of all, you will have what you want. So it's always be. I said before that your life only gets better when you get better. As a leader, your world, your business only gets better when you become better yourself. So C is people whose cooperation you will need. To accomplish anything worthwhile, you're going to need the cooperation of lots of other people. In our next session, we're going to talk about how you find the right people to work with you to help you to become successful. And your ability to choose people to work with is the critical determinant of your becoming a big success. You can never become a big success all by yourself. You've got to have people doing all the little jobs so that you can do the most important things. Number five is organize the list into a plan. Is organize it by sequence and create a checklist. What do you need to do first? What do you need to do second? What do you need to do third? And priorities. What is more important and what is less important? By the way, the checklist is what's going to make you rich and famous. People who write out a checklist and work from the checklist every day accomplish 5, 10, 50 times as much as people who have no checklist or driving through life with no roadmap. Number 6, take action immediately on your plan. Now you have a goal and a plan. And what you do is you do step 1. And take action immediately. Now here's the good news, is that you can always see the first step. Once you decide to achieve a goal, the first step appears in front of you. And when you take the first step, you'll see the second step and the third step. And then number 7 is do something every day that moves you towards your most important goal. Now this is a formula that I've developed by reading thousands of hours and practicing myself. And I've had people who've written one-year goals, as you're going to, and come back to me and said they've accomplished almost all of them within 7 days. Because all the powers of the universe are activated on your behalf when you have clear, specific, written goals that are programmed into your subconscious. A goal that you thought might take months or years to achieve, suddenly things start to happen in the most incredible speed. Give you a great story. I did my 2-day seminar in which I taught goal setting and put people through a much more complex process than this. And one of the gentlemen, his husband and wife were there. The gentleman was in sales, and he wanted to double his income within the next 3 months. So he just wrote it down. What the heck, double my income. And then Monday morning he went into his company, and they gave him the bad news. The company was not doing well, and they were laying him off. And so he walked out of there Monday morning, no job. And he said, great seminar. I set a goal to double my income, and now I'm unemployed. Wow. And later that week, his wife, Thursday, was shopping for groceries. She ran into a friend of hers from school. And they started talking and chatting. What are you doing now? Well, my husband and 2 of his partners have started a new business. And, we said, well, great, well, how's it going? She said, well, there's just one problem. They're really trying to find a good salesman. They need a good salesman for this business. And she said, well, my husband's in sales. She said, will he come and speak to my husband and interview for the job? And she said, absolutely. He went in on Friday, got along well. He was exactly the right person with the right experience for this new company. They hired him. He started on Monday. Within 60 days, he was earning twice as much as he'd ever earned in his life. And he looked back and he said, if I hadn't set the goal and then got fired, I wouldn't have had this job. If I'd stayed at that old job, I could never have earned twice as much. In honesty, looking back, they could never have paid me twice as much. He changed his whole life. Now, there's a reason I tell you this, and because this is what happens. It's sort of like a rocket that starts to go all over the place when it's a misfire. When you set a big goal and you write it down, your life will suddenly start to go in remarkable directions. Amazing things will happen. People will call you. You'll read something. Someone will hand you a book or make a comment. The most amazing things will happen in your life, and they're all part of a pattern that is leading you toward the goal and bringing the goal toward you. You have only one responsibility: clarity, focus, and concentration. Well, that's 3. But the most important thing is clarity. Be clear about what you want. So please open up your page here, and what I want you to do is write down 10 goals that you would like to achieve in the next 12 months. Write down 10 goals that you'd like to achieve in the next 12 months. Now, these may be a 1-week goal. You may want to achieve a goal within a week or a month or 3 months or 6, but the ultimate deadline is 12 months. Write down 10 goals you'd like to achieve. No talking. Write down the 10 goals as quickly as possible. Okay, moving along now. These are very important numbers And you'll find that all successful business people know these numbers. And they set up their business to generate these numbers. My business is set up, by the way, to generate all of these numbers on almost a daily basis. So the numbers come in, the sales, the number of sales, the size of the sales, and so on, and they go into my accountant, and my accountant gives me a report every day. I get it right here. I get it on my iPhone. I get my financial report every single day. How much in, how much out, expenses, costs, profits, payables, receivables, everything in one day. And then at the month, I have everything broken down into detail. And so I know exactly to the penny. And you must do the same. Even if you don't like numbers, and most business owners don't like numbers. And so if you don't like it, get someone else who likes numbers. There are lots of people who love numbers. They love to do these calculations. If you give them the job, they'll be so happy they'll want to kiss you on both cheeks. So if you don't love to do numbers, get somebody who loves to do numbers, and they will generate the numbers for you. And it's quite astonishing. I've been in large meetings where the accountant will come in and say, ladies and gentlemen, here are the recent numbers, here are the trends, here's what's happening with the sales and profitability of each of these products and services, markets, customers, and so on over time. And sometimes the top executives are shocked. They had no idea about the numbers. So it's really important that you know your numbers. Which brings us to something really neat. And this is based on some of the best work that's being done. There's a company in San Francisco who started this business some years ago. And what they found is that companies were going broke because they were putting all their expenses into one number, and then they were dividing it by the number of sales, or they were dividing it by the volume of the sales of each product. So they call these multi-product companies. The company may have 20 products. And so they would have all of their costs would all be going into one account and not being broken out. So they really had no idea the individual profitability of each product. They assumed at the end of the month, we had this much in sales, this much in expense, so our overall profit was this. Then they started to break it out, and they found something very interesting. The company is called Maricon and Associates, and Fortune magazine wrote a story on them. And they call them the Maricon Men. Like Marathon Men was a real popular movie at that time. They call them the Maricon Men. They come into a big company, they charge $10 or $20 million to do an analysis. They give the company the analysis, it blows their minds, and the companies will increase their sales 5 or 10 times. And this is what they found out. They found out that if you take all the products that your company sells, if you are a multi-product company, you'll find there's one product that sells more than any other. It is your most profitable single product. But the only way to find that is to take and attribute to it 100% of every single cost of producing or buying and selling that product, including your wages, including rent. They would even deduct 1 penny for air conditioning attributed to each product that is sold nationwide. I mean, they would be very fastidious. And then there's a second product that is your second most profitable, and a third that is your third most. And then there are products that are less profitable and less profitable. And then they found in multi-product companies, there are a whole lot of products that were selling well, and the company was losing money on every one because they weren't focusing on all the costs involved. Now, they may have a product that's selling well, however, it also has a high level of defects, so the product has to come back, it has to be serviced, it has to be replaced. They have to pay shipping and handling and cost. They lose customers. They spend a lot of money advertising to get the customers. The customers are unhappy. They want their money back, and then they go and tell everybody else not to buy. So some products are killing the company, and they didn't even know it until they did this analysis. So this is what you want to do. Now, if a company gets into trouble, they have a specialist, and I will never forget my experience, and I've studied this exhaustively. I have all kinds of books and articles, and I've actually done this with companies. And what they do is when a big company gets into trouble and it's losing a lot of money, like IBM was, like many companies are, the board of directors, who's usually shareholders and responsible to the shareholders, will realize that this person, this president in charge of the company, is the wrong person, and they fire him. And then they'll bring in what they call a turnaround artist. And these are a turnaround specialist. These are people whose sole job is to turn companies around. In the analysis that they've done, they're almost all men because they are ruthless. They come in and they are as cold as death. They don't care about anything but saving the company. So they'll make the turnaround specialist the president of the company. And this person will come in and he'll bring in two people. He'll bring in an accountant and he'll bring in a marketing person. So I was on an airplane and the airplane was delayed for 3 hours. And I was sitting next to this man and I asked him, what do you do? And he said he's a turnaround specialist. I said, well, that's really interesting. He said, have you heard of this company? And that company at that time was a company called Prime Computer. Prime Computer was in the news the year before because it had lost $20, $30, $40 million and was in serious trouble. This year it's in the news. It's reversed completely. It's made $20, $30, $40 million and is growing rapidly. He said, maybe you've heard of Prime Computer. I said, yes. He said, that was one of my turnarounds. And I said, really? I said, do you work in a specific industry? He said, no, I work in furniture, lumber, hardware, computers, airlines, doesn't matter. Principles are all the same. I said, really? He said, yes. I go in with my two partners. They make me the president for a year. I go in there and change the company completely from losses to profits. And then I take a bonus of several $1 million and I go on to the next company. He said, we're booked up several years in advance. And so we were talking about this. I couldn't believe it. I said, how do you do it? He said, it's very simple. We go in and we do this analysis. We say, where are the profits? Where are the losses? And what we do is go chunk. We just cut off all the loss-making parts of the company. So whenever you read in the newspaper that someone has gone into a company losing money, and the next thing you hear, they're closing 500 stores, laying off 10,000 people. Hewlett-Packard just laid off 12,000 people and shut down 2 divisions. Biggest companies in the world. And then they transformed the business, and suddenly the company is making profits. Lou Gerstner went in. His job was to turn IBM around, and within 1 year, he turned it from $1 billion in losses to $1.6 billion in profits. And what did they do? They came in. The first thing they did is they found all the companies, all the products that were losing money and cut them off. One very famous turnaround specialist is a man named Al Dunlop, and he's called Chainsaw Al Dunlop. You know what a chainsaw is? He just comes in and he chops off whole divisions, fires thousands of people. When Jack Welch took over IBM, it was $4 or $5 billion a year. It had been in business now for almost 100 years, and he took over the company. And they called him Neutron Jack because an atomic neutron bomb goes off over a city, and what it does is the neutron rays kill all the people, but they leave the building standing. And so what he would do is he would go into every division and he would fire everybody. The building was left standing, and all the people were gone. And they called him Neutron Jack for the first 5 years. He went in and did this. He also was paid over the course of his career almost $500 million. He retired as one of the wealthiest executives in history, and the only reason we know how much money he got was because he got into a divorce at the end of his career, and his wife sued him for half, and it was all in the newspapers. But he made hundreds of millions of dollars by being a turnaround artist as the president of the company. So here's my rule: be your own turnaround specialist. Be your own turnaround specialist. Go into your company and stand back and say, if I was being brought in from the outside, what would I start doing? And what would I stop doing? What would I do more of? What would I do less of? What would I not get into again in terms of product, services, and people? And you ask yourself these hard questions, and then be your own turnaround specialist. Get rid of all loss-making parts of the business. I told you before that Steve Jobs, when he came back into Apple in 2006, 2007, they were producing 104 products. Over the course of the last 20 years, they kept adding a product because somebody thought it was a good idea and there was a market for it. So they added another product and another product, and all of their abilities were spread out over 104 products. But 100 of them were losing money, breaking even or losing money. So Steve Jobs came in and he went, chunk. And they will all say, Steve Jobs, oh, what a great entrepreneur. He had a chainsaw. He just cut off 100 products, and then focused on the 4 that were making real profits, and then take the extra money and resources and engineers and develop the iPod, the iPhone, and the iPad, made Apple the most valuable company in the history of the world. You can do the same sort of things on a smaller scale with your business. So I'm going to ask you to I'm going to ask you to answer the questions in this session, and the questions are: what are your most profitable products and services right now? Do you know, after you've taken everything away, and there's usually only 3, sometimes it's only 1. Sometimes a company will find that 80% of their profits are coming from one product. And you know what they'll do? They just shut everything down and focus on that one product. Number 2 is, what are your least profitable products and services? Cost too much time, too much money, earn too little profit. Number 3, what are your most profitable tasks and activities? What are the things that you do that contribute the greatest value? Remember, we talked about this yesterday morning. You may have changed your mind up to now. Number 4, what are your most profitable marketing and sales activities? What are the marketing and sales activities that bring you the greatest number of new paying customers? And you'll find the 80-20 rule just keeps hitting you in the back of the head. 20% of all your promotional activities are bringing you 80% of all your customers and sales and profits. Number 5, what are your least productive and profitable sales and marketing activities? The reason I ask that is because the greatest enemy of success in business is called the comfort zone. Is we become comfortable doing things in a certain way, and then we're very reluctant to change, even if it's not working. And so you have to ask yourself, if I was not advertising or promoting in this way, in this publication, knowing what I now know, would I start advertising or promoting? And if the answer is no, imagine you are your own turnaround specialist. Imagine you're an outside consultant who's come in to advise you. And the first thing the consultant does, and he charges you $500 an hour, is says, what should you do more of, less of, start or stop? So be your own consultant and be really harsh on yourself. Say, would I start this up again today knowing what I now know? And then, number 6, who are your most profitable people? Those whose contributions are the most valuable, those who you would hate the most to lose. By the way, in every company, 20% of people contribute 80% of the value. And what I've always done in my businesses over the last 30 years is, if I recognize that somebody is really valuable, I pay them more money. I keep paying them more money. I give them commissions. I give them bonuses. I give them salaries. I keep paying them more money because I don't want them to go somewhere else. The cheapest money you pay is to your highest performers, because they produce vastly more value than they cost. So remember, here's a rule which we'll talk about later, but it's good people are free. Good people are free. Poor people are very expensive, but good people are free because they contribute vastly more in value than you pay them in dollars. So companies will hire a person, pay them $10.5 million a year, average last year, but they contribute, because of their influence, $1 billion worth of sales and profits. So $10.5 million against $1 billion, it's paying like 1% of what this person is contributing. Paying $100 million to an outstanding executive like Michael Eisner, who takes over Disney when it's at $4 billion and raises the value to $60 billion, and paying him $300 or $400 million in salary, which they did, people say, smartest money you ever paid. Smartest money we ever paid. Went from $4 billion to $60 billion, and we paid him basically pennies on the dollar that he contributed to us. So anyway, we'll talk about that when we talk about people. So number 7, who are your least profitable people? Those who contribute very little. And then, of course, our big question, what one action are you going to take immediately to increase your profitability? What one action are you going to take immediately as a result of your answers to the above? Please begin. Okay, if I could have your attention, please. This is really hard work, working out profits, prices, percentages, economic denominators, and so on, but it's one of the 7 keys that's been identified in all of business history to becoming a great and profitable company. So it's sort of like work that you have to do. It's like cleaning up the dishes in the kitchen after dinner. This is just work you have to do. It's not work that you love to do. But if you don't know these numbers, the lack of one number or one inaccurate number can kill you. It can kill you. So that takes us to Our two favorite words, remember we talked about clarity and focus. Clarity and focus. You must be clear about these numbers, and then you must focus on these numbers every day. I know the best business people come in, and every day they demand to know the numbers, specific results of the previous